Oh man. Hello everyone. This card is very annoying to analyze because I think the card is very strong in Thanos particularly, and even in non-Thanos decks it's also very strong, but it's very overshadowed by how good it is in Thanos. However, I like the card and what it does to non-Thanos decks. I like the type of decks being created with this card. It's just that Thanos overshadows any of the all the other archetypes, so you're just going to be seeing tons of Thanos meta with this card being released. Now, I also think this card is going to get nerfed, but I feel like I still have to recommend this card because you're going to feel it if you don't have this card, especially in the high infinite meta. And it's just like, yeah, this card is too strong, likely to get nerfed. But I personally would just love to see this card not work with Thanos, maybe be like a 5/8 or something, not working with Thanos, and see where that goes. But it's such a conflicting card. We'll go over it. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. How you doing? So today we are talking about Thanos Synergy card number 28, Mockingbird. So this is a really cool card with some cool applications. It's just kind of being overshadowed by how synergistic the stones are. But I do think even in non-Thanos decks, it's pretty strong, pretty fun and engaging. But let's get into the details of this card. Let's get started. Let's talk about Mockingbird. So it's a 5 energy 9 power card, costs 1 less for each of your cards and play it in starting your deck. That sounds kind of hard to do, but there are a lot of cards that you can play that you can generate in some way, either through card generation or card cloning, or card summoning, or just having Thanos with the stones. So this card is broken. Like, unfortunately, I don't have like a very nuanced opinion here. I just think with Thanos, it's too good. However, in a non-Thanos world, where in a world that doesn't work with Thanos, I actually think this card is good in terms of it allows different decks that aren't popular to have a payoff, right? So a lot of people are playing this with Patriot stuff, which has been pretty bad for a little bit. I've been seeing Shana, which I never see, right? But because Shana generates 3 cards, like that's a big payoff for Mockingbird. So I've been seeing Zoo come back, which has been tough, and just other cool decks. People have been like playing Moon Girl to try to get multiple things like that. Like generally cool ideas that I don't mind in the game. The issue I have is that Thanos is way better than all of those other decks, and it's too easy to just play Mockingbird in a Thanos deck and have that be very strong. And I don't think it's wholly Mockingbird's fault that it's a problem card. I think Thanos is just so easy. Every card these days that come out just work with Thanos. It's hard to design new cards that don't synergize with Thanos, it seems. Right? Even Pixie has this like Thanos prevention mechanism where if it didn't have that, it would also be a Thanos card, right? Like, so that's kind of the issue. It's also hard to fix that because Thanos Stones specifically don't start in your deck, and I think that was because of Loki or something. They wanted to have that mechanic or something like that. There was a reason why they didn't want it to start in your deck, and you could see the ramifications. Like it's just hard to have it. Like Thanos Stones will work in some archetypes, will work with some strategies because it's so flexible, and it's just like here we go again, right? Another Thanos dominating meta if Mockingbird stays the way it is. So when it comes to do I recommend this card, I'm so conflicted, I guess, because the card is good. The card is very strong with Thanos. I mean it's probably the best archetype to be playing, especially the high infinites. But I just think it's likely to be changed. Like I can't see this surviving like a month of of continuous play. The stats are really good. The play rate's really good. Like, I just don't likely see it not changing. So there's always those cards of like, hey, Blob and old Loki, all that stuff where it's going to be changed. Like, the card is too good, in my opinion. The stats are going to say, hey, secondaries are going to be like, ooh, the stats are really good. Let's change this. So that, but do you still get the card to like enjoy like the first month or first whenever the patch notes or the patch change or OTA, if they do it OTA ways? Like, whenever something changes, do you get it because I'm going to use it until it changes? Or do you say, hey, once it changes, maybe it's not going to be enticing enough for me to really play it and I've wasted my resources, right? Like, it's a hard thing to know here. So in terms of like, is it strong right now? Absolutely. But should you get it? I mean, maybe, right? Like, maybe you should, just because you'll still get to play it until it changes. And they just had a big patch, so it's unlikely they're going to, hit them up again. However, maybe the OTA would be where they do it. So wherever the next OTA is, some Thursday. So that's like if it is a problem. However, if we could solve the Thanos issue, I like the card. Or it maybe just needs like a 5/8 or maybe like people have been suggesting 5/6/8 5/7 or like 6/8 or 6/9, that kind of thing, like either a cost buff or cost nerf or a power nerf, that kind of thing. But I do like the card itself. I do like the ability to play Zoo. Like, you could play Zoo with this. Like, I like that. You can play just these weirder comps or these new comps that I haven't seen before, because you have a payoff. So before, when you're playing like Shauna fills your board with weak cards, and there's not really like a great payoff. You have Kazaa, you have Blue Marvel, but you can't really like go over decks in a lot of cases. With the Mockingbird, you can. So I do like that strategy. It's just like, why do any of that when you could just play Thanos? And it's way better, in my opinion. So I like the card, but I don't like how it works with Thanos. And that's like my main issue. And I think because it's so synergistic with Thanos, it's probably going to get nerfed in some way. I personally would like it to not work with stones. Just remove it. Just say, accept stones. Like, just be like that. Be that dramatic. Say, no, you're not working with Thanos. And you get to keep the cards similarly stronger. So maybe like 5/8 no Thanos, or 6/9 no Thanos. That would be my, like, let's just get rid of Thanos synergy. Because Thanos is always good. Always problematic. There's always going to be things. I think it's fine to just say, yeah, this card we've designed early into the development of this game has always caused those problems. We're going to have some hate mechanics added in. I'm okay with that. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. But yeah, it's a strong card, very good. You'll see it a lot. I already see a lot of people playing it, so definitely players like strong cards. So I'm not surprised a lot of people picked it up. I know it's not gonna last. So that's my current thoughts there. Now let's look at the spotlights. So we had like this big issue where Miss Marvel, if you hadn't updated, was showing up. I've had some people say they got Miss Marvel there and they still have it. I've had some people say they got Miss Marvel and then they switched to Ghost Rider. I have some people say God, Miss Marvel disappeared. Don't know who to trust, but I'm sure like that's kind of passed. But it is weird because it did show Miss Marvel in their announcement videos or promotional stuff, so kind of weird for them to switch it so late into the rotation, is my opinion. But yeah, it's Ghost Spider here, so if you do want this, I'm not a super big fan of the Ghost Spider-Man thing. We've talked about it before, but you're next to 2 Series 4s. Mockingbird's good enough that you might still want it just because it's very strong. But it is like, hey, do you want this strong card next to like 2 cards you don't really need, right? And that's like the argument there. I'm not a big fan of that, but I can definitely see the appeal of like, yeah, I still want the strong card, you know. Would I change the C tiers to B? It feels wrong, maybe, but it feels wrong. But yeah, I do think the card is strong. All right, and then we have some of the deck builds. I think the most common one you're going to see is Thanos. I think this is generally the type of deck people are going to be playing. I've seen some with Professor X still. People seem to like that. But essentially, a lot of people also running Mobius just to kind of counter. So this is like for the mirror match, just because people are like, because what else is getting discounted in this deck besides Mockingbird, right? Like you're playing Mobius to deny a Mockingbird. Essentially, that's like the whole point. Though I don't think that's like a good counter. So some people are saying, oh, you can counter with Mobius. If you go Mind Stone, another stone, Mockingbird's 3. So you just played on turn 3 as a 3/9, and you're still good. So it doesn't really have that clear like counterplay. You could just play it as a 3/9. You could play it as a 2/9, or even a 1/9. Like turn 3, you could play it as a 1/9 if you go Stone, Mysterio. That you're not running Mysterio, right? But Mysterio, all 3 counts. So you get -3 discount. So it's a 2. It's a like in there. It's already a 1/9 on turn 3. Like kind of crazy. You can, but if you're just playing Mysterio, it's a 2/9 with no other synergy. So you go Mysterio, Brood. It's a 0/9 already. Some people also suggested. I know that minimum 1. I don't know if that solves it per se, just because you have Hope Summers in the metagame, so you can still do something like play turn 5 into Hope Summers and play a 1-cost Mockingbird into a 6-cost card. So it's still pretty good. Obviously, I don't like things costing 0 personally. So I'm fine with minimum 1. Just put it in there anyways. I just don't know if that like solves the frustration part, you know, especially with Hope Summers in, where a lot of decks have like extra mana to go around. So that's my personal thoughts. But yeah, a lot of people are playing some version of this. We'll say the call Obsidian suggestion. I had a lot of like people saying you're recommending call. Like, why recommend that card? Honestly, best card of last month. You know, Corvus is good too, but I think Call has been seen in more decks, so I'm kind of correct on that one, anyways. But yeah, that's my. This is the most common deck I think you'll see, but there's a lot of cool other Mockingbird decks which I want to see more of. It's hard to play them when Thanos Mockingbird is so good, right? And people are just very aggressive. They'll play what wins. They'll play what streamers promote, right? And people are just playing what is strong, what's winning. Thanos Mockingbird is winning for them, so they're just playing it. But here we have like Silver Surfer Brood, or I guess Iron Patriot that's what it's called usually. Here it makes sense. You have Brood, Absorbing Man. Brood is pretty much carrying the Mockingbird edition. So if you don't play Brood in this deck, you're probably already losing anyway. So it just kind of makes sense. You have Brood Absorbing, then you have that gives you a 1-cost Mocking. If you go Sinister Brood Absorbing, then you have a 0-cost Mocking. So just having Brood Absorbing gives you 1-cost Mocking, very good. So that's enough to make 1-cost Mocking instead of playing blah blah blah. I could play like Blue Marvel Mockingbird turn 6. Look, that's pretty good. Blue Marvel Iron Man turn 6. That's pretty good. So I mean Mockingbird Iron Man or Blue Marvel turn 6. That's pretty good. So that's kind of the idea here. It's not too complicated, but you are super reliant on Brood. But this deck was already super reliant on Brood anyway, so I don't think things changed too much. Next up, we have Loki. Once again, so what's nice about this is it has a lot of like cool synergies besides just Thanos Stones. So card generation gives you a discount. So things like playing the Cable Drawn card, things like playing the Agent Coulson 3 or 4 or 4 or 5, things like playing the Snow Guard, they all discount Mockingbird. So with strategy or with synergies, you can get it to around like 2 energy, which is pretty good. Obviously, it's not better than Thanos, right? Because Thanos, you're playing 1-cost stones, a discount. Like it's so strong. So it is something. If you like Loki, you can play Loki. You can play Mockingbird in Loki, and it works. So that is something for the Loki believers, as they like to call themselves. So this is definitely At least I've seen pop around, still pretty good. Next up, we have Patriot. So Patriot's a deck that, or an archetype that hasn't been strong for a while. It used to, early days, it used to actually be pretty good just because you were able to contest all three lanes with like 20 power. And getting all three lanes 20 power was like kind of an achievement back in the day. So it could contest, and it had, good matchups into some locations. Any location that locks you down, you could usually win those. So that was like its strength. Nowadays, I think there's been power creep, and people can easily have 20 power on all three locations and not really have any vulnerabilities like this one tends to have. This one you do have, like, you lose to Killmonger, and you're also pretty telegraphed since oh, they're playing Doom, they're playing Patriot, Mystique, that kind of stuff. It's pretty, hey, I know what you're about to do, and that's a pretty big weakness to have. So with Mockingbird, you now have some extra payoff. You can definitely get 0 power here with Mysterio. Mysterio, all three work because the Mysterio comes in as a clone. Even that real Mysterio, it comes in as a clone. So you just play Mysterio, it's -3. So that's a pretty big buff for Mockingbird. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, you could definitely just play Mysterio in any Mockingbird decks that have synergy. So usually Patriot or something like that needs to be required. But just pretty good. It's been reviving some other archetypes, which I like to see, right? Like it's cool to see this come back in the game. You haven't really seen much Patriot in a while, so this is cool. I like this. It's just like, why play this when Thanos exists, right? Is my issue. And then next up, we have another one with playing Shauna, right? Which I think is pretty cool. It's like a Moon Girl Shauna list where you're trying to dump your hand a little bit, then play Moon Girl, get copies of Mockingbird, get copies of She-Hulk, and then you're able to go, Mockingbird, She-Hulk. That's the dream. I don't know how likely that is. Just theoretically, I've played something like this before, and it was kind of hard to do that. It was like, in my opinion, you picked one, right? So either you're like, okay, can I go double She-Hulk or double Mockingbird? And then you go consistently, because it's kind of hard to get rid of all your cards. I mean, this one is pretty low curved, but I still find it like somewhat hard to get rid of your cards. But maybe you can do it here. So then you get the payoff. You get the payoff. It's a fun deck, and I like decks like this. That's kind of my issue. I don't want Mockingbird to get nerfed where these decks don't feel rewarding. Where it's like, oh, you could play this, but it's not. It doesn't have enough of a payoff, right? Like Mockingbird's a pretty good payoff. The issue is that, hey, with Thanos, you'd rather, like, the payoff in Thanos is way easier and isn't as you don't have to build around Mockingbird in Thanos, where the other lists we have here, you kind of have to build a little bit around them. I would say, like, maybe not this one, right? Like, you're already doing the same thing. But a lot of the other decks, you kind of need to, like, be aware that Mockingbird might be in your hand, and then play around it, where with Thanos you don't have to do that. And it used to be the case where you could argue maybe Mockingbird wouldn't been as good in Thanos because usually you would lockjaw stone, like you'd lockjaw the stones away, right? So in a previous meta, right, in the Thanos lockjaw meta, Mockingbird might not actually be that good because you'd go lockjaw stone, right? And then the stone would go away, you'd lose that power. But because Lockjaw got nerfed, because people aren't playing Lockjaw, it's a different playstyle, and because of that, Mockingbird like fits perfectly, and it's like, yeah, definitely the best thing to do. So overall, when it comes to this card, I like the card, but I think it has a bad taste in my mouth because it's so synergistic with Thanos. I would like for them to just say, hey, let's just not make it work with Thanos. Like, I don't like, accept stones. Like, just hate Thanos here. I think it's fine. Thanos is always good. I'm tired of Thanos meta every month. Is my personal opinion. But yeah. What are your thoughts? Do you recommend the card yourself? I'm sure if you play the card, you'd be like, yeah, it's so strong. But I just think it's likely to get changed in the future. So if you're okay with that, feel free to get the card. If you want to wait and see, that's hard, right? Because if you wait and see they don't nerf it and you didn't get the card, then you're still behind. So that's kind of the issue with this type of release schedule. You can't really predict because you don't know when they're going to nerf it or if they're going to nerf it. And if they don't nerf it, well, then you would feel really bad not having the card. So in that mind, like, get it if you can, but just be aware, like, hey, it might change in the future. So that's my thoughts on this card. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.
Educatedcollins snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you to marvel snap. Your skills will be